Yo, what's going on? It's your main man, Rick the Dawn. Hey, yo. So, I'm doing a new series in which I react to every episode. Why not? I watch this show, like I watch every version of the show, football and basketball, and it would only make sense for me to share my reactions with you. This episode is brought to you by rickthedon.com. That is my website. Go check it out. And also the Really Hood podcast. If you don't, you want to go check it out. If you ain't ever heard of the Really Hood podcast, you out of the loop now. You out of the loop. Hey, so anyway, I am late. It's pretty obvious. I'm pretty sure everybody knows how this season ends, but I purposely wanted to wait. And I want to jump right in. Look, I was happy to see some returning characters. Coach Ken, he's from Detroit as well. Um, Coach Rob, one of the most loyal people I've seen in terms of sports. I mean, passionate guy. Gotta love his passion. All right, we got some new people in here. Brandon Wilson. All right. We got DC, a very, very animated character for sure. We got Shamar. I got a lot to say about Shamar. All right, cool guy. I got Brian. I got a lot to say about Brian. Damani. As of right now, I don't know how his story concludes, but I hope it's not the way it looked like in episode one. We got Desmond. So those are some of the key players, and of course, we got Coach Mosley. I want to just kind of just give out some raw reactions. For those who don't know, I used to coach basketball. I coached about what was it, 2 seasons, and overall, I think my record is like 16-4. So I know my way around a basketball court, in other words. So that's why this season is so passionate, or I should say, the series is so passionate for me or to me, because I do have a passion for sports in general, especially basketball. But we kind of get a recap on how things ended, because if you saw season one, the end of season one, how terrible was that to see these guys who were on an amazing run all of a sudden have their season cut short due to COVID. And there's a lot of talk, or was a lot of talk, about whether or not this team, or that team rather, from season one could have taken it all the way. I don't know. Maybe right now I should give my definitive answer on that. And I'll ask you as well. If you saw season one, do you feel like that team could have taken, the championship that year? Based on what I saw at the end of this episode, I'm not sure I believe that, because basketball is all about matchups, and sometimes a team that looks good is only looking good against certain competition. So I'm going to say definitively, and I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade, because those guys were super talented and absolutely fun to watch. But I'm going to argue that they don't win the championship last season. And I say that because I think tonight's episode showed me what happens when a strong team meets a really strong team. You look, this whole season was building up about the return to the game. I think they took a year and a half off. March 2020 is what the show says was their last time on the floor. So there was a lot of buildup and a lot of talk about September being a time in which Coach Mosley was trying to really galvanize his team and get them in playoff shape. He was definitely nervous. If you watch this episode, you saw him really, really scared. You saw him very antsy. We heard rather, Coach Rob talk about how John was still feeling like he was the underdog, and you definitely saw that there. But I do want to take a moment before I go too deep here and just talk about the new cast of characters. I will say, in terms of cast, I did appreciate last season's cast a little bit better, and it could just be nostalgia talking, just because that was the first time I saw this entire premise, because up until that point it was just football. So I'm not sure if I'm on board with the cast right now. It's still very early, and having coached basketball, when I see these gentlemen, I can't help but just think of my own experiences. And the first thing that pops up in my mind is how playful they are. As a coach, I remember myself just being so frustrated, because nobody wants to win more on a basketball team than the coach. And I really believe that. The players, they get the fun of just playing the game. And when you get to the NBA level, you have fun and just getting paid. I mean, all that stuff is cool. But for coaches, it's so much more than just, money, or, having fun. It's a passion. It's to show that you are superior mentally. And as I'm watching these guys, they're kind of like playing around, they're joking, they're doing little weird things during practice. And one of the funniest scenes from episode 1, season 2 is, I don't know his name, but he is talking. It might even been Damani. Damani or someone is talking while John Mosley is giving out his monologue, and he just goes off on the guy because he's talking with him. So that is what I experienced as a coach, and I just felt this pain. Yeah, let's talk about some of these guys. I want to just kind of give my initial reactions when I saw Brandon. And look, I don't really know. I can't tell from the screen, but Brandon doesn't seem like a basketball player to me. I think if I'm reading him correctly, I don't think he goes to the NBA. I actually think he does something within the sport of basketball, though. I think he's going to be the person who becomes the next John Mosley, if you will. I think he's going to be the person who graduates in sports management or something to that effect. He might be a sports broadcaster. I think he's going to be within the game of basketball. I'm not sure he's going to be on the floor with a basketball, though. He could be a coach. He has a different physique. He has a different mentality. And that is what I recognize about Brandon. Okay. And you even heard the story where he was kind of late in terms of getting a scholarship. Real basketball players who want to really make it, there's no excuses. It wasn't I was late. It wasn't the scholarships dried up. They're there and they're doing whatever they have to do to be on the team. So I kind of peeped that, like, okay, he doesn't really care too much. I think he might even be doing it for his family up until a point. And I think, again, he's going to be something important within the game of basketball itself, not necessarily on the floor. And DC was probably one of the funnest new additions because he seems to be the most immature. His father played basketball, so you definitely can see that entitlement as he talks. He expects to be in the rotation. And this is one of the hardest parts about being a coach. Just watching guys sit on the bench and having their parents give you the evil eye. And even having talented guys on the bench is so difficult. And as a coach, you have to play the team that you feel will get you to win, because nothing's more important to a coach than winning. I don't care what anybody says. It's not the players, it's not the relationship, it's about winning. If it's not for winning and competition, I'm not sure a coach is even doing this. But I did like DC. This episode did not give him a lot of love. I haven't watched episode 2 and further, so I have no idea whether or not he's going to just play this bench role the entire time. But I will say, in a lot of clips where he's playing basketball off the court, you see him like on the sidelines and things like that. I did see a lot of potential. I mean, I saw a nice dunk from him, and I'm like, yo, you don't just dunk like that if you don't have raw ability. Again, I think it's in his DNA, if you want to be honest. But he's so immature. You saw him arguing with Coach Mosley, like asking him who he was looking at, stuff like that. This is the type of stuff that's going to get in the way. And you saw clips of DC on, what was it called, TikTok. He has like a little glitter filter where his eyes are sparkling. He has the Lawrence Taylor earrings. Like, this guy is a personality. I think he is going to be someone not necessarily in the league, but he's still going to be pretty well off on the basis that he'll probably create followers or following, especially with this show. But again, these guys, those kind of guys, were always difficult. They were always there for a good time and stuff like that, but not necessarily to play the game. And I think John might have the right mindset in which he is on the bench. We'll use him when we need to use him. All right, now I want to talk about this guy right here, Shamar. Now, this season seems to be really focusing on Shamar, and I know why. As a coach myself, you're doing tryouts, you see everybody, and then there's like 1 to 2 guys, and definitely one guy just standing out because you see raw talent, raw ability. He has the essential makeup of a basketball player. Scoring comes easy for this particular person. I had my person in the gym when I was like, that's the guy right here. That's the guy who's going to guarantee I win at least so many games. Okay. But here's the problem with a guy like Shamar. He doesn't have both feet in the game of basketball. He has 1 foot in the game and 1 foot in the street. You can tell by his demeanor. You can tell by his hair. You can tell by the way he talks. He hasn't made that decision to become a full-time basketball player. And I'm gonna tell you right now, and I haven't watched further than episode 1, so I don't really, but I will tell you this: these are the kind of players coaches need to watch out for, and that's because Yes, they are talented. Yes, they are gifted, but they are the ones who will push the line in terms of if you're telling the team to do something, a player like this will more than likely test you. And if you don't correct that, then without question, the rest of the team will start to push the line along with this kind of player. So I call this kind of player a double-edged sword. They can definitely help you, but because they're mentally not in the game with both feet, they can also hurt you. I haven't seen that from him in episode one. I'm just going off my own personal experience, and we will find out whether or not I am, my hunch is correct. I'm not sure. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I am. I'm just going off of my past, So I know this kind of player. Here's my prediction, and again, I'm late, and I'm not going to look or listen to forums or Facebook groups who've already seen the entire season. I'm not going to, this is just my thing, right? You can watch it, you don't have to watch. And I'm going to just make a prediction, though. I'm going to say that he's going to lose to this team 1 to 2 games. I'm going to just say that right now. Either ball hogging, taking bad shots, trying to look good on the court rather than look good in terms of the scoreboard. Just my opinion. I could be wrong. In fact, I hope I am, because a player like him, I would like to see him go far. Now, this player right here is probably the player I'm watching the most. That is Brian. You probably can't see that, but I'm watching Brian the most, and that's because of his body, the way that his body is engineered. He reminds me of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, both in look and hair and like his physical makeup. Um, but that's about where the comparisons stop, because I'll tell you, as I watched Brian throughout this episode one, he's very hot-headed. And this is another player you have to watch out for. Again, going back to my personal experiences as a basketball coach, you really have to watch for the players who are very emotional. And you saw in the early parts of episode one, he's like on the bed, he's on his phone, he's always smiling, he's grinning. They're like, "Hey, what time are we going to practice?" Well, we'll go when he calls us. Like, this is the you got to watch out for this kind of player. I will say, I think he has all of the skill set to be a huge talent, but I can't tell you that I think he's going to do it. There's a reason he's at East LA College, right? And it's crazy because he's coming from LSU. So to fall from grace at to that magnitude, that tells you or gives you an inkling of this guy. This guy should be putting up at least 15 and 15 every night on any team. LSU, NBA. He's so tall. He's so lengthy. He has one of the best attitudes for basketball. I'm talking about in game, when on the floor. He is extremely aggressive. You even saw episode one, he threw an elbow at DC. So that just shows you how aggressive Brian is. But he is wildly unfocused. You like I said, just kind of joking a lot outside of the gym. Always aggressive, elbow to the face, always seems to be pretty angry. And I don't see it translating the way I want to see it. I feel like right now, and I'm only in episode one, he might be a 12-8 guy. But given his length, given his physicality, given the fact that he's from LSU, his experience, he should be putting up 15-15 at a minimum. So I'm watching this guy and I'm hoping to see him really take off. Of all the people on episode one, or rather season two, I think this guy is NBA ready. I can't tell you if that's true or not, but it certainly feels that way. This here is Damani. Unfortunately, his season was cut short. At this point, I don't know that he plays further because I haven't watched further. But I will say it was a really bad story in terms of just watching him, get pulled from the game. I've also had situations like this where parents they have the final say, and you might want to do one thing, but if the parent shuts it down, it's shut down. And in this case, I really support the decision because your heart, you only get one of those hearts, and they're saying that his heart was enlarged. We don't really know. It seemed more like a diagnosis, more like an opinion, and something that might need further testing to conclude. Now, my next player I want to look at here is Desmond. He is the only returning player from the first season, and it's funny because I don't remember Desmond, and I think I know why. I think coach might have had him on the bench, and this happens as well. Sometimes you have really good players who emerge a following season. However, but the prior season, because there's just better talent, a player like Desmond kind of gets pushed to the back. But I always say this, I always feel this. every player, every person will get their moment if they're patient and if they continue to work and observe and watch the game. Coach Mosley, let's talk about him for just a moment. Coach Mosley, that's one of my he's like my one of my favorite people. Top 50 people on the planet right now. I just really appreciate his approach to the game. Very passionate. He's a Christian man. He's a family man. He's a husband. I really like people like John Mosley, and he's certainly doing a service to those individuals in East LA College. I don't know. A big question I'm asking myself, and I'm continuing to cycle through my mind: will this be his year? I think we heard in episode 1 where John Mosley has a chip on his shoulder and it won't fall off until he wins at least one state championship. It's really sad because you just really want him to win one. And you saw the breakdown at the end of season 1, and you kind of get why, because he really wants that championship. And one of the most difficult things to watch in this episode was when they were starting to play in the tournament, and you saw some teams with banners up. I believe the team they lost to had, and I wasn't counting, but it looked like 8 conference championship banners just up there. It was like a leisure activity, like they win every year. And that has to come at the expense of players. I mean, coaches like John Mosley. He doesn't have one banner, to my understanding. So to see one team with 8 and see John with maybe 0, and he's so passionate, it's really sad to watch. And it really speaks to what it takes to win a game of basketball. It's not necessarily just passion. It takes a system, and it takes a lot of a lot of knowledge about plays in general. So whoever these teams are that's winning consecutive championships, they have a system they've built into their program and they've muscled over the years in conjunction with the talent. Now, I believe that East LA, if they continue on this route, within 5 years or so, they can be a really strong contender. But looking at this group of guys, I'm not sure that this is the group that's going to do it, though I do appreciate their talent and what they bring to the game individually. Now, I want to quickly talk about the tournament that they were in, and I was really optimistic. First off, they steamrolled the first team. I don't remember the score exactly, but I want to say it was like 50-71 or something to that effect. And they really look good. And then they went on to steamroll the next team. And I don't have the names of these teams. Again, I'm just watching it like you. I'm just a casual viewer. But they steamrolled the second team, 78-56 or something to that effect. Now, they get to a team, again, the team that I'm talking about, the team with the 8 banners I saw in the rafters. They get to that team, and wow, what a crazy game. East LA starts off with a 9-0 run, and you just thinking to yourself, this is a runaway game. It's over for this other team. Red and white jerseys. I don't know the name of their team. San Francisco. It sounded like they kept saying. But then the refs got involved. Let me tell you, one of the worst things that always happens is the refs. The refs can destroy the tempo. It can destroy the motivation of a team. I had there was 2 coaches that I've never won a game when they were coach. I mean, I keep saying coaches. There were 2 refs, rather. There were 2 refs that I never won a game whenever they ref my games. Like I said, my overall record is like 16-4, and my 4 losses came from these 2 refs. And no matter how good we played, how good we played the following week or the previous week, rather, or how prepared we were, these 2 refs just always got in the way of our game. And I felt like, John Mosley might have had a little of that happen, where he just couldn't, get over the refs, the stripes. He even says it in this episode, the stripes I hit a play or something to that effect. So, it was really terrible to see. But I hope that Coach Mosley also understands that it wasn't just the refs that caused that loss, because as I was watching the game from a basketball enthusiast standpoint, I'm like, wait, they're giving up shots. They're committing several turnovers. So it wasn't necessarily just the stripes. It was also a lot of mistakes made by the team themselves. And, one thing I was really happy to see, once the loss happened, they were able to still be together as a team. As a coach or a former coach, whenever a loss happened, the last thing you wanted to do was go and sit down in the locker room and talk. I remember most of my losses because they were so different. They were so demoralizing. It's like everybody just nobody even wants to go back into the locker room to give back the jerseys and the uniforms to get washed. Everybody just wants to go home. Like a loss in sports is one of the worst feelings. And I'll say I can't speak for football. I play football myself, but as a coach, I coach basketball, and those losses are really, really, really hard. They're really difficult. They mess up your entire day. You go home, your wife doesn't really care about sports, and you're like, I just don't want to talk about anything. So it was really cool to see that Coach Mosley had enough respect from his guys that they were able to come back into the locker room and group up and depart on a positive wavelength. They said family at the end of the 3 count. So I thought stuff like that was cool. But all losses are not equal, because I'll tell you, there was one loss I took as a coach, and it really changed the way I saw the game. When you're winning, you can't really figure out what's going right or wrong. You just know you're winning, and why fix something that's broken? But when you lose, it really exposes you. This team was exposed thoroughly in episode 1, and Mosley did exactly what a coach should do. He put them in uncomfortable situations. He pretty much figured out, like, I can't play nice with this team. He saw them just not show up. I was very surprised by how bad this team lost. At some point, you realize the team is going to lose, but the way that they lost was really bad. They talked about how everyone was anticipating this game, and I understand why, because this is the Netflix team versus the winning team, and they want to see which one is more dominant. Is it the team that has a pedigree and tradition, or is it this new social media team that's popping right now because of they're getting Netflix exposure, stuff like that? And I'm not surprised. I guess I am. I am surprised. I'm gonna say I am surprised based on how East LA performed against the first 2 teams. That's what surprises me. However, I shouldn't be surprised because this team is known for winning, right? And I think this team is going to do better than what I saw against that one team that beat them. I think they're going to do better than that over the season. But I'm not sure that this is the team that's going to win the state championship. So, we will see. If you like these type of reactions, like the video. That lets me know I should be doing more. Otherwise, I'll just kind of watch the show and just kind of have these thoughts and just keep them to myself. But I want to go check out episode 2. So, expect a second reaction. I'll probably do 3 of these and then I'll probably give it up unless people like it. But thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope that I was able to, I don't know what I was hoping to do. I'm not sure. Because I'm assuming you've already seen the entire season. I'm the only one who hasn't. But anyway, that being said, if you did like it, just the conversation alone, please subscribe and I'll holler at you on the next one. Peace.